Hey Stevie, alright, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is again look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and feelings involved, another important day, the death, and lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout usually. So here obviously we are going somewhere where time really doesn't matter, the Atlantis and Lemuria card. So with this card, it could be Atlantis, it could be Lemuria, it could be a place that is of legend or what we consider to be legendary. It can be also what am I trying to say? Like non-earthly, I guess, not even on this planet, or it's just like, places where you're not going to find non-typical places. So what's interesting is that I feel like we're looking at a highly developed civilization, and part of me wants to say it's Atlantis, and then part of me feels like it's somewhere else. So I'm just really curious about that because I really have never had that before. But really what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling with the whole thing being Atlantis and somewhere else, it feels like it would be like a non-Earth place, but it's almost like there are certain energies that affect Earth that come from outside of Earth. I know it sounds kind of, if you're not into the ET phenomenon or anything like that, it might sound a little out there. It does. It sounds like it's out there. It sounds completely cray-cray, but that's what it's feeling like. So it's almost like I want to say it was Atlantis maybe during a time when it may have had influence or contact with other energies besides the ones that we usually consider to be like typical like Earth energies, I guess, or typical, like not just like human on human or that kind of thing. Like it feels like it's something a little bit outside of that. Bear with me, and keep in mind this has to resonate with you too. But I've never had anything like that come through, so I really don't have much to say about it, except if that connects with you in any way, let me know. Heck, reach out. I'd be very curious about that, quite frankly. It could also be, if you're drawn to Atlantis or learning about it, or if it's come up in your radar lately, that could just be telling you why we're going to a lifetime there as well. It feels like we're looking at a masculine life or a male life. And I'm sorry, I'm pausing because I'm trying to feel him out. It feels like they're showing me as he's like a youth, like a younger male. And there's something about him like being perpetually like young, or there's something about, it's almost like there's something about his youth that's important, and it's the kind of importance where it's like his youth makes it so that he's treated a certain way. So you may connect with that. I mean, I don't know why it's coming up, so it's coming up for a reason. So you may connect with that. If that speaks to you in any way, such as it's almost a feeling of being a second sibling, like the middle child kind of thing. That's what it feels like. Where he's always seen as like the younger one, and that's something that is either bothersome or just simply something that is always very like apparent to him, not necessarily being upset by it. So if you can connect with that in any way, do so, and if not, that's fine. I'd like to move on to what you do with the majority of your time, and it's almost like that same image they're showing me of just him, like the youth that I was just describing, and it's him reclining. So the card here is leisure card. And that's usually just, it means a life of leisure as in being taken care of financially, comfortable living, that kind of thing. And it feels like, it's interesting is when I read people that go to Atlantis, and when we go to Atlantis lives, a lot of times it's like the homes are very similar. So to me it's good because what they're showing me is the home of this male aspect that he lives in, and it's white. There's a lot of like, it's like that pure white, but it's not sterile. It's like a warm home, but it's white. So it's how do I say, like, I don't know, kind of like posh, I suppose, if anything, but it's definitely not like sterile. But that's what they're showing me, is him in this white home, and he's just reclining, and it's like, in one of those, like, it's almost like the wall is indented, and he's just reclining, like, in the indent, if he were to, like, just want to, like, hang out there, and, like, if they had, like, it's almost like if they had tablets or something, you know, that the kid's playing with, is what it looks like. So I feel like the issue of him being the child or the second sibling or something about the placement in the family is really important about this. So if you can connect with that, as far as in your current life, you could have chosen to come in at a certain placement in your family. Like if you have siblings, I'd love to know if you are the middle child or the second sibling, or even the, you know, just basically not the oldest. Then again, actually, so you know how we could be making direct connections and opposite connections. Maybe you chose to come back as the oldest, but here it feels like we're dealing with the middle, you know, child's and or the second child, or whatever you want to call that. And it's obviously coming up a lot for a reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it over and over. So I don't know how you can connect with this. It may be, you know, if you do have siblings, is there something going on with your sibling currently? Is there any kind of competition between you two, any jealousies, or any, you know, if you have a sibling, sorry, that is there any kind of rift? Is there something you're not telling him that you should? Is there something you feel like he's keeping from you? You know, like, is there something going on with your sibling? Or does it have to do with, like, how your parents feel about you, and your sibling? Or maybe you've always felt like you, didn't get as much as your sibling, or maybe you got more of the inequality. Maybe you felt unequal in some way. And this is, of course, only if you have a sibling. So there's that. The life of leisure could be coming up. It feels like, just to let you know, kind of based on what you chose in this life, it's almost like a message that feels like, know that you chose what you chose for a reason. So let's say you were born into a family that was comfortable. That was for a reason. And the reason, it feels like if you were born into a comfortable family, it would be because you needed that for part of your purpose in your life, whether it's a lesson in learning how money isn't important for certain things, or a lesson in learning how to accept help when you don't like it, or receiving, you know, help when you're used to giving, or something like that. Also, on the other hand, if you chose to come back into a family that isn't like well off at all, you know, that struggles financially, or struggles in general, that kind of thing, you chose that for a reason, because here it was leisure. So if you chose a non-leisure sort of lifestyle as your family to be born into in this life, if that's the case, they're just letting you know that it would be the opposite connection, kind of thing. And it would be for a host of other lessons that you can learn from being in that situation. So connect with that however you can. If you can connect even with the white decor, like, do you like surrounding yourself in a certain, like, the aesthetics you surround yourself with in this current life? Do you like clean, streamlined looks? Or are you someone that loves color and patterns and just different, you know, textures or whatever it is? So I'd be curious to know that, because it's coming up for a reason, right? So again, it could be the direct connection or the opposite. Keep that in mind as we move along, and keep making connections where you can with these guys. And the first important day here, so we have the graduation card. Boom. And then we have the child card for the relationship. And you know, the graduation card, it can be school, it can be promotion, it can be, you know, mental graduation, like an emotional step up, like all sorts of things. So I'm trying to feel out what it is. The child card is involved. It could be, well, I mean, there's so much it can be. I mean, what I was going to say is it could be your child. It could be that you feel like a child. You know, there's so much stuff it can be, or a family member, or your sibling. It could just mean a lot. But I was just getting a hit for a second. Sorry about the pause. This is the feeling card, which is positive and negative. So it's a dual card. So it can be either positive or negative, or it could be like a little bit of both. So I'm trying to see what's coming through here. So it feels like there's something about a graduation, but it's a graduation of business and family kind of thing. I feel like you're... Okay, so it's almost like you have an older sibling that takes up the mantle from your, you know, your family business, whatever it is. I'd like to actually know what that is, so I'm going to see if we can find out what it is. But in the meantime, it's like an older brother who is like kind of like groomed and primed to step into the family business kind of thing, whereas you're not really. But it feels like, hold on. There's like something that happens that takes him away from that like something that happens that takes him away from being able to do that as much, like to run it. So it's almost like you're being brought on board to help run the business. And I actually, yeah, so what it feels like is, it feels like he has a child, and there's something about the child where he needs to spend time at home. It's almost like a feeling like the child has like a disability of some kind that requires like a lot of attention or something, and it's not that it's going to be always, but it's just like it's almost like a brand new baby, and there's something wrong with it mentally in a way where it needs special attention and care. So I feel like the older brother is shifting some of his responsibility to the younger brother, you, in order to spend more time with family, like at home with this. So this is feeling like it's both positive and negative, because it's a good feeling for you, like you feel needed and you feel like this is my moment to like shine, like this is my moment to show like, you know, that I am capable of everything that he's capable of kind of thing, you know, that competition there. At the same time, it's also like putting it in your face. The negative feeling, it feels like it's because it's in your face at all times, that should your brother, or when your brother comes back to work full time, if he wants to, he could be like, okay, I got this by, and you would have to go. So there is that, like, it's like you can't even get away from being like the younger brother ever. There's no growing out of it. It's just that's how you accept treatment, and it's how they treat you, and it's acceptable because you allowed it in that way to be so. But it's also like hard not to, because it's your family. So it's like, what are you going to do? So if you're connecting with this in any way, I feel like, you know, if there's something going on with your life or how you are when it comes to accepting certain treatment that might be disrespectful, or even if it's just to you, or maybe no one in the world would find it, you know, annoying or whatever, but you're the one that it's being done to, so you're finding it annoying, and it's perfectly acceptable. Basically, it feels like, make sure that you're validating your own feelings and not doubting your feelings. If there's, you know, something like that where it comes down to how you subjectively feel about it. It doesn't matter if other people find a joke funny. If you don't find it funny, don't laugh, you know, like that kind of thing. It's like, it's very subjective. It has to hit your funny bone just right. Like, so in other words, in other scenarios, not like laughing at a joke, but if someone's mistreating you and has been maybe like for a very long time, you have to accept your own accountability for allowing it to perpetuate, but also forgiving it, because you're only human, but also taking the step to disallow it. It's time to like disallow that behavior. It's just a message of making sure that you command respect from others, including, you know, your own internal dialogue. And when I say command respect, that's different than demanding respect. It's more subtle. You want to command it in the way that you project your own energy, and that starts with self not just a self-acceptance of everything that you are, but also learning to actually love all the parts of who you are. Like, not just accepting, but actually trying to like teach yourself to enjoy all the parts of yourself, if that makes sense. So if that speaks to you in any way, great. And if not, that's just what's coming up. Sorry, I had to adjust that camera frame. Jeez Louise. All right. So what else might be coming up here is it could be about, you know, how family treats you, or just people who are close to you. but it's also, you know, it's a lot of times family takes family for granted and treat each other a certain way. Again, it's a very, like the sibling kind of thing. They think, oh, they'll always be there. So this is just a message coming through to remind you that blood is not always thicker than water, and you can make a family out of friends. You don't owe your family members that, like, medieval type loyalty anymore. If they treat you poorly, you don't have to spend time with them. You don't have to go to the holidays. You don't have, whatever it is. And then this is actually anyone who brings your vibe down, anyone that kills your joy in any way, you do not owe them any time. So I feel like that's coming up, and if not, that's fine. It could allude to what may be coming up in your life. Sometimes that happens, so keep that in mind. Let's see, this also can speak to certain people that you may have mixed feelings about, and you don't really know how to read or how you feel about them, or maybe the feelings go back and forth. Maybe like, you know, one time you see him and that's great, and then it's not great, and then but you're reminded that it can be great, so then you go again and it's good, but then the next time sucks, you know, like, so someone that just like is like hot and cold, or they're not consistent, or they, you know, if you're just like being like, what's it, like dragged along by someone, what's it called, being led on, is that what it is? You know, if it's a romantic thing, whatever it is, it could be friends, it could be anything. Just make sure that, you know, you're aware of that, and if anyone comes to mind while I'm talking about that kind of behavior, then that's just something to consider. If no one comes to mind, that's good. And it's just something to be aware of. Another step you really want to take is to make sure that you are being aware of everything, and not that you're not in denial of things. So it's like always good to just kind of like check in with yourself, you know, just every so often, to make sure that you're, you know, like your belief systems and how certain people are making you feel. Like, just take an assessment basically, and make sure that you are not putting yourself in like the energy fields of people who are bringing your energy down or not making you feel good about yourself, okay? So the next important day, and keep making connections where you can here. I mean, actually, before we go to the next important day, I do want to mention like the graduation thing about this. I mean, it could be seen as like a promotion. It could be seen as like, which, you know, again, that could mean something in your current life. If you are looking to move on up somewhere, or you're looking for a change that will make things better, or if you're looking to transition, this card can correlate with that. And this would also speak to, in the case that you may feel uncertain about your career, or uncertain about your, like, whatever you do currently to make money, or whatever it is, if there feels like there's any instability or uncertainty as far as whether it's going to last, or whether it's going to be pulled out from under you, or anything like that, that would be a connection with this. I don't usually go so far as to say that that's going to happen or not going to happen, but what I would comment on is that it would feel like a message to you, just to make sure that you have all of your senses like running, and that you have all your, like, how am I trying to say this? Like, that you have all your feelers out there. Like, make sure that you're not putting your head in the sand about anything, because it's quiet down there, so you won't be bothered by the chaos up there. You know what I mean? Like, make sure you're just aware, and be aware of everything that's happening around you, so that nothing comes as a surprise. And nothing will come as a surprise as long as you stay aware. Next important day. This is the so long, farewell, until we meet again card. So it feels like someone's going away, and the feeling is soul group. And this card is kind of like melancholy. So what it actually feels like, it feels like a while later, when what happens is what he thought would happen, he thought would happen, which was his brother would come back full time and say, okay, I got it here. Not like in an asshole way, but just like in a way where it's like, you know, like pat you on the head, good job, okay, go home, bye, you know, like that kind of thing, or go, you know. So it happened, and he didn't he didn't want to go back to the lifestyle he had before, which was basically doing nothing. It was kind of like, you know, someone that would just be hanging out at the mansion all day, playing tennis maybe, and, you know, it was just like a very unchallenging life, especially after doing this. It was so unfulfilling that this day comes and it feels like he goes to join what we would consider, like today, like if you join the army, so you're joining like a group of people that have a similar goal. That's what it feels like here, but it doesn't feel necessarily like an army. It just feels like that kind of going away to join up with the group of similar-minded or similar people that have a similar goal. I just don't know what it is, but it feels like something that where he can work at it, and over time it's working towards a goal with other people. It feels kind of physical. I really don't have too much to say about it because I feel like it's actually something that we wouldn't be able to relate to based on just, you know, that these were two very different times. But okay, so it's just showing him going far away, and it's like it's a rougher life, but it's with people that he really connects with. That's what it is. So the soul group comes in is because he really is connecting with these people. It's almost like as if, and this isn't the case, but it's almost like as if the second children of all of the wealthy families all came together and worked on a project together, over in a different place to get away from their family. Do you know what I mean? Even though that's not the case, that's what it feels like. So it feels like he's with like-minded individuals. They all get along. It's challenging work, but it's fulfilling. You know, everything feels really good. It feels like it's really settled here. And this feeling is melancholy. So even though it feels really good and there's a sense of freedom, and, you know, it feels much more peaceful here, there's also this feeling of gaining a sense of self. He's still, you know, there's still like feelings of missing home, or feelings of like thinking back, you know, how things were, or, you know, that kind of thing. Just normal stuff when you're away from home after living at home your whole life. And I guess if you were curious, it feels like we're looking at someone who's in their like late 20s at this point. Or what we would consider looking like late 20s. I just don't know how their aging was back then. So let's see. Okay, so how you can connect with this could be having to do with the idea of leaving home. Did you have a hard time leaving home? If you did, or are you still at home because there's a fear of leaving home? Are you leaving home? If you left home long ago, was it a really difficult thing to do? Or was there a kind of, was there ever like a breakaway from the family? Or was there ever a time, even now, where you're like, I wish I had people who spoke my language, I need to find my tribe? This could be a message, if that's the case, this would be a message for you to go find your tribe. And how you find your tribe is by pursuing things that you love. So feel out in your gut, what do you want to do? Is there anything that's been coming to mind to you? You know, like, have you been thinking of painting? Take a painting class. Have you been thinking of singing? You know, get a song coach, like take a singing class, a group, you know, like join a choir kind of thing. You want to go where people are going for the same purpose. Like it could be anything. I mean, just make sure you're following your gut. What excites you? Go do it. I do want to note that with this card, if you find that you are in a slump or you get in slumps, this would be a message. You know, like everyone gets, you know, down every now and then, or maybe you just have depression, you know, like maybe that's what you're dealing with. And if that's the case, that's perfectly fine, but there would be a message in this to help you. And the message is, if you ever do feel down or get in those little slumps or whatever it is, I feel like it's very heavily connected to your tribe. So it's almost like, make sure that if you do get depressed or you feel down or whatever it is that you're going through, to open up to people, to talk to people, to give your friends credit. You know who you can open up to. You know who you can trust to not, you know, make a face or judge you or whatever it is. You know who those people are. Use your own judgment and open up to them, talk to them, trust them. Like, they're in your life for a reason. And so if you feel like you get in these slumps, just know, like, that's what's coming through, is if you get in these slumps, turn to people. Don't keep it all in. You might be someone that does bottle things up. And if that's the case, Again, it's just a little message not to do that. And if not, that's fine. But that's just what's coming through. Keep making connections where you can here. And we're going to go to the death card. This is murder. I don't think you were murdered on purpose, though. I feel like there was something you had that someone wanted, and I feel like it's almost like someone poured something in your drink to knock you out unconscious, to like steal from you. And it feels like you were given too much of a quantity, or your system was not able to handle the amount and you died from it. Accidentally. So yeah, you were murdered, but it wasn't intended. So if you have any sensitivities when you for any when you digest, like if you have digestion issues basically, or food sensitivities, drink sensitivities, if you it might even be like if you're sensitive to alcohol, but the digestion, the whole tract, like processing food, if you have any issues with your tummy or anything like that when you eat or drink, then that would be a connection. And if not, that's okay, but I feel like that's probably the only connection we can get, except for you may be someone who may be paranoid. So if you experience paranoia, that would make perfect sense, then that would come from that. Now here is the lesson, and this is compromise, and it's just speaking to this. It's speaking to what happened here is that you compromised a lot of yourself and your happiness for a very long time until you were told to go away. And your brother, of course, here it's like he said go home, but really it was like you took it as go away. You took it as like being pushed out in a sense. It was almost like it was like you had enough, and it's like, okay, this is the only moment, and I'm going to seize it, and I'm going to go. And you find it's like you had to wait until until an external thing came along to finally get you out of this, like almost like trance, like it's almost like you're like hypnotized in life here is what it feels like you're just walking kind of in a haze, like through your life, being told what to do and just like no purpose, that kind of thing. And then finally it took being taken away from something that you found fulfilling, and you're like, okay, this is enough, I'm leaving. So I feel like the compromise card, the lesson in that, if anything, I feel would be like a message for you today to make sure that you don't wait for someone else to redirect you or direct you onto your path. You don't have to wait for someone else to do that, or don't wait for someone else to do that. Like, initiate it yourself. Like here, he didn't initiate it. And it took so long. So basically, it's like, don't waste your time. Don't compromise yourself. Don't compromise your goals or your visions or your dreams or any of that, because it may be where it's just too late to get some of those done eventually. It's not yet. It feels very much like it's not yet. But don't wait. It's not... I want to take that back. It's not that you can't ever get them done. You can get them done. It's just that you'll be a lot happier if you pursue things that you love earlier on. That's all this is. It's just make sure you're not wasting your time. Make sure you're not letting other people waste your time, and make sure you're not holding yourself back waiting for permission to go pursue other things when you feel like it's right to do that yourself. You know what I mean? Because sometimes that kind of thing is really scary, and we will push it off and push it off. And it's just, that's what I feel is coming through, is just don't compromise yourself, don't compromise your time or your life or any, like, don't compromise anymore if you have already. Just go ahead and take that first step and pave your path, kind of thing. And maybe that's what you're doing right now. Maybe you've begun. So if that's the case, you know, awesome. If not, start, right? So anyway, there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. We're able to make some connections in here. And thanks for letting me read you.